What's up everyone, John Rettinger from TechnoBuffalo here with the full review of the Motorola Droid 2, a sequel to the phone that really started the Android craze on Verizon. Let's see if it lives up to its name. So before we talk about keyboard, screen, and specs, let's talk about the call quality of the device. Since it is a phone, it doesn't make good phone calls, no matter what else it does, it's not going to be much use to you. And typical to Verizon's lineup of phones, call quality is excellent. I experienced no white noise on my end, the caller experienced no white noise on their end, there wasn't any popping, and in a 20 call test while driving for half of those, I experienced 0 dropped calls. The radio in here seems to be on par with average devices. Generally, I can pull in about 2 or 3 bars of EVDO or Rev A in certain areas, and this pulled in almost exactly that, no more than no less. So it's got an average radio, so you should get pretty decent signal strength if you're in Verizon's network. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about specs. This guy is being run by a 1 GHz TI OMAP processor. It's got a 3.7 inch, of course, capacitive touchscreen with a resolution of 480 by 854, so pretty high resolution. And the display supports up to 16 million colors. It's got Bluetooth 2.1. It comes with 8 GB installed on the phone, sort of soldered in there, as well as an 8 GB micro SD card. And it does come with Android 2.2, that's Froyo, right out of the box. No need to wait or worry for an upgrade. Of course, it's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, the rest of the stuff that you would expect. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the design. It's hard to talk about the design of the Droid 2 without at least referencing the Droid 1. Let's go ahead and bring that guy in here just for a minute. If you can remember my initial review of the Droid, I was a big fan of it. Android, when it was first launched, and the Droid in particular when it came to Verizon, hadn't achieved that much success. It had been sort of a fringe operating system limited to 1 carrier on the US, and Verizon really embraced the OS. And the Droid was their first offering, and it was a huge success. I loved the way the phone worked, I loved the way it felt. One of the things that I really didn't like about the initial Droid was the slide-out QWERTY keyboard. It had a very, very, very large D-pad here, which took away a lot of the key space. The keys were separated, but it was not a very easy typing experience. Definitely one of the worst physical QWERTY keyboards that I've ever used. So now let's talk about the Droid 2. They fixed that keyboard issue. So you don't have that D-pad there anymore that almost looked like a fingerprint scanner. They replaced it with just 4-way navigation arrows, and they got rid of the key separation, so each key looked different and actually felt different. It was almost cut differently. Now we've got sort of a single membrane on top of all the keys. You can see they're a little bit raised. It makes for not much improved typing experience. I actually was very disappointed. I've tested a lot of full QWERTY phones, and this is probably one of the worst keyboards that I've ever used. So if you're prepared to think about picking up the phone because you wanted a QWERTY keyboard, I definitely recommend going to try it in a Verizon store, because you may be disappointed with how it performs. That being said, Motorola does have one of the best sort of on-screen keyboard augmentations to the stock Android one, so you can rely very easily on the on-screen keyboard. Although if you're picking up a Droid 2, the slide-out is really a nice feature, so you're really missing out on one of the primary selling points of the Droid 2. Another sort of small gripe is that the keyboard's not spring-loaded, meaning when you slide it out, it doesn't sort of launch out, you have to push it all the way. A very small complaint, something that I missed and that I've seen on other slide-out QWERTY devices. The difference is, again, between the Droid 1 and the Droid 2 from a physical standpoint. This big pronounced chain, which is where the antenna resided, is a little bit less pronounced now. You can still see it a little bit there. It's more of sort of an evolutionary, little streamlined design. The new Droid 2 is running Motorola's redesigned UI, still sort of being called Moto Blur. So you get a little bit different button array. You've got that sort of 4 square grid, which really just pulls up menu button, replaces the traditional menu button found on regular Android devices. And that's really it from an aesthetic standpoint. Of course, you've got more of a chrome feel or chrome look as opposed to the black from the past. So this is running a 1 GHz TI OMAP processor, and we sort of heard that 1 GHz number quite a bit. Verizon's got a few of them. For instance, the Samsung Fascinate running Samsung's Hummingbird chip. You've got the Droid Incredible running a 1 GHz Snapdragon processor. If you sort of stack all 3 processors up, the TI processor running in the Droid 2, the Snapdragon, and the Hummingbird. This would definitely be the slowest of the 3, although it's a very capable phone. So let's talk about some of the specs of the device as well and sort of show how those specs come together into a full package. So let's jump right ahead and take a look at the browser. This is an Android 2.2 device. I mean, it does have support for Flash 10.1, which does work very well. Really using the browsers where I've seen Android phones either excel or really fall flat. Processor time and rendering time oftentimes are a bit slow when using multi-touch browsing. So when you zoom in, it's not as quick as you'd like, although it does appear to be relatively fast on the Droid 2, so the processor can more than keep up with that. If you go ahead and rotate it, of course, you've got a landscape view as well. Browser-wise, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a sort of very powerful Android phone. It works well. I've done a ton of browser reviews on many different phones. I'm not going to rehash it here. It just works well and does have Flash support. So if you're looking for a phone that can sort of do that, look no further than the Droid 2. Now, I want to sort of wrap all this up and put things together into a full sort of value type package review. This phone's going to set you back just about $200, at least at the time that this video was filmed. And it's hard to recommend this phone, not because it's not capable, but because Verizon has so many other great phones for the same price. The big selling point here for me would have been the full QWERTY keyboard, which I found to be very unuseful. So that's going to mean, what other phones in Verizon's lineup can you pick up? Well, the Samsung Fascinate's going to be the same price. With that faster Hummingbird processor and no full QWERTY keyboards, you're going to get a much thinner package. If you like Motorola's sort of enhancements, their blur-esque features, you need to look no further than the Droid X right here, which was recently just updated to Android 2.2 Froyo as well. You're also going to get physical buttons, which are non-capacitive, which some people might prefer. You're going to get a larger 4.3-inch screen for the same price. So from a value standpoint, it's not that it's a bad phone, it's that Verizon has so many other great options in their lineup that it makes the Droid 2 very hard to recommend. One other sort of small gripe is the camera on the back. First of all, it does not record HD video at 720p like the other phones I just brought in. It does have a dual LED flash, but the pictures are not very good. They look grainy and gray, not very true to their actual colors. Battery life, you're going to have about a 1400 milliamp hour battery. And I will say the Droid 2 does very well with battery management. I'm very easily able to get a full day out of it, which is not something I can say about other Android devices, something to sort of bear in mind as well. So overall, can I recommend the Droid 2? Not really, and again, just because there's so many other great phones in Verizon's lineup. If this phone existed in a vacuum, so there wasn't a Droid Incredible, there wasn't a Samsung Fascinate, it wasn't a Droid X, or really any other Android phones on Verizon, this would be a fantastic buy. It's a fast phone, it's got a lot of great features, a little bit on the thick side because of that QWERTY keyboard, but because there are so many other choices, it's going to be a hard sell. So on a 1 to 5 scale, just based on this phone itself, I do give it a solid 4. Losing out on the keyboard and the camera are really what prevents it from getting a 5 in my book. So do you agree or disagree? I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm John Rettinger from TechnoBuffalo. Be sure to check out the website for all your tech news and for exclusive content. Check me out at Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.